this demo will introduce a couple of enhancements that BizTalkServer2010, once installed on a developer workstation or a server, brings into the WebApp designer and the WebApp platform, as well as App Fabric. The enhancements are specifically tight integration with the BizTalk line of business adapters, as we know them from previous versions of BizTalk, as well as BizTalkServer2010. And the second enhancement is the BizTalk mapper, again tightly integrated with the WebApp designer experience. Before I jump into the technical details of the demo, I just want to touch base on the scenario itself. What we are seeing on the screen at the moment is a web application implemented with ASP.NET and powered behind the scenes with services implemented as WebApp workflows. The web portal is actually an application that manages support cases, and as part of the processing of the support cases, we need to generate billing information and work with billing information that resides in a line of business application at the back end. So our workflows and our application logic need to connect to the back-end system and work seamlessly with the data types that this system exposes as well. So I'll jump into Visual Studio, and what we see on the screen at the moment is a workflow that provides billing connectivity services. So if I right-click on the project itself, we'll see that BizTalk, when installed on that machine, extended the right-click menu for the project with a new command, with a new menu item called Add Adapter Service Reference. If I invoke this menu item, it brings up the UI, the LOB adapters UI, for configuring a connection to an LOB system. From the binding, I can select the type of line of business that I want to connect to. We have options for Oracle, SAP, Siebel, SQL Server. And if I choose Siebel, for example, and go to configure that connection, in the connection properties, I get Siebel-specific properties. Respectively, if I select SQL Server, something that we are all familiar with, and go ahead and configure that connection, I can input the server name, localhost in this case, and the database, which is called billing database. So now that we configured the connection to the line of business, we can connect, and the UI is going to browse and display the metadata and the functions that are exposed by that line of business. We have, in our case, procedures or stored procedures in SQL Server, tables. We can select from the tables that are defined in that database. If we were connected to SAP, we would have seen RFCs, or remote function calls, or BAPIs, business API, terminology which is specific to SAP itself. In our demo, we are going to select one of the stored procedures, get new billing records. We'll add this operation to the list of operations that we want to invoke through that adapter service reference. And when we click OK, the UI is going to generate a few project items that I'm going to look at in just a second. For the purpose of this demo, we have already generated this item, so I'm going to cancel this dialog. And the items that got generated upon clicking OK are a custom activity, declarative XAML activity called SQL Adapter Binding Get New Billing Records, as well as a C# class or module that contains all the data types exposed by the backend system to support the operation that we want to invoke. Now, that custom activity that got automatically generated is present on the toolbox for our workflow, Get New Billing Records. I can just drag and drop it onto the design surface, and then in a very WebApp way, I can select this custom activity and configure the inputs and the outputs, or those are the properties of the activities. The input is a single data type, customer name, and then the result set is a complex data type which has multiple records as the result set, and we can choose to store that information in a WebApp variable predefined for us. So if I select the activity which is already configured, we can see here that we pass a customer name variable as the input, and then the output is returned back into a variable called storedProc result set. Again, it is a complex type storing multiple records. Now, that complex structure needs to be transformed and aggregated into a single record data type that will be used for further processing of that billing information. Question is, how in DABF do we transform one data type or one object into another data type and object respectively? This is where the second enhancement that BizTalk 2010 brings into DABF comes into the picture, and this is the BizTalk mapper. We have it as an activity on the toolbox. We can drag and drop it once again, right? And what we get prompt for is the input data contract. I can select from, for example, an array of billing records. This is what we retrieve back from the line of business. And then I can select the single record type called support request info, for example. Now, I've configured the mapper activity already, and if I click on edit to see what it actually does, it brings in a very integrated fashion the BizTalk mapper right in place. So on the left-hand side, we see the input, which is an array of records, and this is a reflection of the data contract that we selected for the configuration of this mapper activity. And then on the right-hand side is a reflection of the output data contract, a single record called support request info. In the middle space here, I can use multiple transformations to transform and aggregate the input into the output, and those transformations are available through the toolbox. I think that we have more than 70 different types of transformations grouped by functional areas: string manipulation, scientific functoids, mathematical functoids, logical functoids, aggregation functoids, and so on and so forth. So now if we go back to the workflow, we can see that the mapper takes input, our storedProc result set. This is the complex data object returned by the line of business adapter, and then it produces the result into a workflow variable, an in-memory object of that simple aggregated data type. So with this demo, you've seen really two things. The first one is how the line of business adapters from BizTalk are tightly integrated with the DABF Designer experience to provide seamless connectivity to LOB systems for the .NET developer as they implement their application logic as DABF services. And the second enhancement, again just to recap, is mapping and transforming and aggregating between data types represented as objects and DABF variables in the workflow.